to another episode of What If It's Cool, the show where we talk about anything and everything that is cool in the world today. I am the spellbinder known as Daniel Paul Crow, and in this episode, I have a sit-down interview with local magician LJ. We talk about him teaching himself how to do magic, as well as how he puts the show together, but also just why magic is cool. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Thank you so much for being a part of our show. I know you've got a very busy schedule, but firstly, I wanted to find out how did you actually get into magic?
Well, I started about 12 years ago now, and one of the first things that I sort of was interested in was street performing, and I think I saw some street performers in the city doing their thing after going to see some magic shows and some live performances, because I was always interested in performing not just magic, but I really was fascinated with acting, and I did acting for like 10 years whilst also doing school at the same time.
Right.
And yeah, I did a few acting roles here and there, but it was all just extra work. But it was such a tough industry to get work in. So yeah, I just didn't really grab it as much as I kind of wanted. And the acting classes were always really fun. Lots of great people working there. My teachers were fantastic. And whilst I got into acting, I also got into different forms of performance art, like stand-up comedy, and also wrestling, which was a really great thing for me. And I loved watching wrestling growing up through school. And when I was finishing primary school, my two dream jobs that we all got asked what we wanted to do as a job when we were older after graduating primary school, and I wrote stuntman / magician, and the stuntman part came through wanting to be a wrestler or some sort of damage to my body through doing fun stuff.
It's kind of ironic because, like, for me, because we had that when I was in primary school too, I said wrestler or comedian, so we're kind of kindred spirits in this sort of aspect there. But I never went into wrestling, and I know, having been an actor myself, I know how incredibly difficult, especially here in Melbourne, how it is to get acting work. Was there anything notable that you done especially in the extra work?
Not really, no. I was I did some stuff with Chris Lilly's shows, Angry Boys. I was an extra in a couple of scenes in that one, but it was all just, it was very localized Australian projects. Nothing major. Yeah, but Angry Boys is probably the most well-known thing that I was an extra in. But I did a few short films. I made a couple of my own, and I worked on a few friends' short films, but once again, nothing really notable or anything like that. So yeah, acting something that I think I still do, but it's more so like whilst I'm wrestling or whilst I'm doing magic, I am playing a character, but in magic it's very much just a character that's like me times 10, and similar thing with wrestling. It's a different character, but once again, it's me, but times maybe 11 or 12.
Well, with your character being, how did you sort of become LJ the magician? Like, was it through self-taught tricks, or did you get someone teach you anything from magic, or what was it?
I have a lot of people to thank for getting me to where I am now, where I'm producing my own shows and performing around Victoria, and I wasn't really sort of specifically taught by anyone in particular, but there's a few people who taught me different things. Like, one of the people who got me into street performing and really showed me a lot of the ways of doing that was a person named Dwayne Andrew. He was instrumental in where I am today. Another very good friend of mine, Jordan Doust. He's a fantastic street performer and close-up magician. And another really great person who I did work experience with in high school. His name is Anthony DeMasi. He's a professional magician.
So how did you get that work experience gig? Because I would have loved to have done something like that in for my work experience. All I did was I worked at Target for 2 weeks, and it was boring as hell.
Yeah, no, it was really great. Like, so Anthony had apparently he'd done it for a couple of other people in the past, which was really cool. And it was one of those things that I was already kind of mates with him by then, and we'd performed together a few times. And I contacted him and I said, "Hey, look, I'm really interested in doing work experience with you doing magic, and if you would be happy to have me, I'd love to do it." And he got back to me very quickly and said, "Yeah, I'd be more than happy to have you on." And he gave me a bit of an outline of what we were going to be doing. So through the entire sort of time, we were every day going to shows and helping do. I was helping him unload and load things in and perform the shows and all that. And I got to open his shows, which was fantastic for primary school
Nice.
kids, for adults and corporate stuff. We ended up going to a corporate function at a really fancy place in the city for like some people at a high tea, and like all I can say is those people would be paying a premium for their memberships to that place, and yeah, they hired him to do a magic show for them, and I got to perform on a daily basis with him, helping him bring stuff in and out. And yeah, it was incredible. I got to perform for primary school kids and for corporate functions, and it gave me a taste of what it was like to be a professional magician working doing magic on a daily basis. And we got to go back to his workshop as well and work on some new things, sort things out at the workshop, and get him ready for his classes that he taught in the evenings.
Mm.
It was an incredible experience. It was like absolutely life-changing experience, and gave me a taste of what it would be like. And I'm forever grateful to Anthony for doing that.
That's just absolutely amazing that someone would actually take a school kid to actually do that, and hands off to him for that. Was he the first one to sort of teach you a professional trick, or did you self-taught yourself your first professional trick?
I self-taught myself most of the things in the early days. And as I said earlier, some of that is stuff that I sort of created, and other stuff is things that I learnt online
Mm-hmm.
or from other magicians, selling their tricks online or at shops. There was a magic shop in the city that I frequented named Bernard's Magic Shop, and that was really great. Back when they were on I think it was Elizabeth Street, they used to have a shop there,
That's right. Yep,
and
I remember them.
yeah, they were great. And I also participated in a magic club with them. I was participating with the Australian Institute of Magic, and Tim Ellis is another person who got me to where I am today. And he's consistently, continued to help the magic community in Victoria. He runs the Melbourne Magic Festival as well, which is like the comedy festival with less of a
Nice.
budget.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a very, very good festival. If you haven't seen it or heard of it yet, you should absolutely come and check it out. It's in the July school holidays every year, and it's fantastic.
I have to definitely check that out. I've heard of it. I think I may have gone past it a few times because I was working in the city long time ago. But I've never actually checked it out. And just from what you're just saying now, that's actually making me want to go and check it out and see how cool it really is. What has been one of
Yeah,
the most
do the show
difficult?
every year.
Yeah. Oh, have you? How many shows have you done there at the moment?
Oh, well, my own solo, like I've done a whole bunch of different shows, lots of
Mm-hmm.
varieties, like gala shows. I've done a lot of shows called magic sports, which are theatre sports, like Whose Line Is It Anyway, but
Yep.
with magicians and
Mm-hmm.
magic tricks. It's the best show of the year every year, just about. It's so funny. So I've done quite a lot of them. But in terms of my own solo shows, I've produced, I think, 3 or 4 now, in 2018, 2019, and this year I produced one. But unfortunately, when I was going to do my show this year, the day before my the day of my first of 5 shows, I caught COVID,
Yep.
and had to cancel my entire run at the festival. But I got to do the festival show that I wrote a little bit later, and both of those shows that I put on in Northcote sold out, which was awesome. So at least I got to do the show, and there will be more of those coming in the future.
Yeah, I remember when you announced that you had COVID. I was just like, Oh, I was shattered for you, man. I was like, oh my God, because you were because I remember seeing on Instagram you were promoting it the like no tomorrow, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
bang. I was like,
Yeah.
shit, what's happened, man? Like, and then you said you were on yeah, COVID. Like, oh man, and I literally had COVID the week before that, so I knew
Yeah.
exactly what you were going through, and I was like, oh, I hope he's all right.
Yeah.
What
No.
what has been some of the most difficult tricks that you've actually learned? What is the most difficult one you're actually currently performing now?
Oh, it's tough. Like, I mean, a lot of the stuff that I do close up at shows, like, so obviously I'll have like stage shows that I do and performances like some, I've got some coming up this weekend actually, and I've got, shows coming up later in the year.
Mm.
Um, but I think a lot of the stage stuff that I do is I wouldn't say easy, but like I've been doing it for a while, or I have a very good understanding of how to do it, or there's ways that I can do it that make it a lot more sort of manageable. But a lot of the close-up stuff is really, really tough because you're right up in people's face. They can see everything, and if you stuff anything up, like you if you're caught with your pants down, it's terrible. But I try and sort of cover those moments as best as I can, and go with the flow and make jokes and stuff like that. And a lot of my misdirection is comedy based, so I try and sort of make people laugh to do my moves, and then I do my moves whilst they're in the off beats.
Mm.
Um, yeah, a lot of sleight of hand stuff is really tough. I know a few really difficult tricks using decks of cards. Um, yeah, there's a few really good ones. I'm trying to think of one specific trick that is just really, really difficult to do. Um, I think actually one of the most difficult tricks, in not so much of a technique way, but more so just unpleasantness, is an escape act that I do that I've been doing for a long time on the
Mm.
street. So it's the finale of my street show, my sort of main street show that I used to do all the time, and I want to start doing it a little bit every now and then again. I get wrapped up in a 60-meter roll of glad wrap from my knees to my shoulders with my arms strapped to my chest,
Okay.
and then I wrapped up in 25 meters of chains and locked in with a padlock, and I have to escape in a minute and 30 seconds, I think, or a
Right.
minute and 40 seconds. So that's, look, it doesn't sound, uh, you know, not, there's no fire or spikes or anything like that, but yeah, that's a tough routine because I have to time it perfectly. I have to get out, and it's a very uncomfortable like 20 to 25 minutes of my life that I have to go through because it's so hot in there. I feel like I'm, roasting in an oven. So that one's probably the toughest one, but not so much for technique, more so just for unpleasantness.
Fair enough. I imagine doing it in 40-degree heat. Oh,
I
oh,
have done it
you're
30,
kidding.
33 or 34 degrees
You are
outside.
insane. What are you? Why would you do that?
Well, well, back then I needed to make rent, and I didn't have as much regular work coming in, and I was relying on my street performing.
Right.
So yeah, I've done it tough in the hot weather. I remember we also, when we were in the bushfire season of, I think it was like late 2019, early 2020, just before the pandemic hit.
Mm.
I hosted some street shows outside, and we were raising money for the CFA to help support the firefighters and the bushfire victims and stuff like that.
Mm.
And we raised multiple $1,000s doing those shows, and also from online donations. I think it ended up being about $4,000 or something like that, which was incredible.
That's
So I
nice.
hosted two shows, and the day that we chose to do the shows, we didn't change the date or anything just because we wanted to keep the advertising on point.
Yep.
But the day that we did it, we ended up doing the shows in 35-degree heat. But I didn't do the escape act there. But yeah,
Okay.
it was awful. But the hottest I've done the escape act in is probably like 33 or 34 degrees.
Oh man, so it's like
Never,
wearing like
never again.
leather jacket, leather pants, leather beanie. Oh, I feel uncomfortable just thinking about it. Jesus.
Yeah, no, I
Oh,
was marinating in that glad wrap. I turned into a stock pot. Yeah.
oh, I bet. Oh my god, I just got a really bad image in my head. Just like it's just you just taking all the clothes off, and it's like it normally we have a little bit of sweat. It's a pool of sweat just coming off you.
Yeah, no, like I'm safe to say that those clothes had a couple of runs through the washing machine, I reckon.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I had a nice long shower when I got home, and it was a cold shower, which was fantastic. I
mate,
think I did.
you should have had a bath after that because I can't imagine the smell that would have been coming from yourself from that. Not in a bad way, but I'm just like because obviously you're sweating that much from that the Melbourne heat as I like to call it.
Yeah.
Oh man,
After that day, I always tried to bring a spare change of clothes in my suitcase with all my other stuff, just in case, so that the people because I didn't have a car back then, so that the people on the train didn't have to suffer too badly with me.
Oh, look, it's Melbourne public transport. They've smelt it all before. Trust me. Have you ever been on the Frankston line on a Saturday night at 1 o'clock in the morning? There's smells on that train that even defy God on that one. It's absolutely horrible. But enough about the Melbourne public system.
No, that's a rough trip. I think I've done that. I think I've done that before back back in the day when I was wrestling for Adrenaline on a regular basis. I've done that trip. It's not fun.
No,
you're right.
No, definitely not. So take me to planning out your show. What exactly is entailed? That you go through. Do you go through your jokes through it, or do you start with okay, I'm going to do this magic trick, I'm going to do this illusion? How do you plan a show?
Okay, let me walk you through my process. So essentially, what I'll do, the first thing that I'll kind of come up with is what I want to. Essentially, I want to have a pretty good idea as to what I want to do in the show. Sometimes I'll let what I do in the show dictate what the show is called. Sometimes it'll be the other way around. When I did my first couple of shows, I gave them a bit more of a theme. But now I've kind of moved away from theming the shows too heavily in terms of the names, because I feel like people don't really activate their senses too much when it comes to going to a named themed show, unless it's an established performer. So like if someone like, let me come up with a name, Leno Woodley, for example. If they came out and they did they do their themed shows like Fly or Moby Dick and stuff like that, people are like, oh, okay, well, it's Leno Woodley doing a theme show. Cool. If they go, oh, who's this LJ guy? He's doing a theme show. I don't know. I don't really want to go and see a show about, that. But like if I brand it as a magic show of some sort, my most recent show was called That Magic Guy. Yeah. It's a little bit quirky, but also it's quite clearly labeled as a magic show. And then when people sort of search it up and they watch videos about it, or they see photos, I try and give people an idea as to what was happening in the show. In that show, I had themes of movies and gambling and stuff like that. So there was a few different things that I sort of put into that show, but that's one of the first things I'll do, try and figure out what I want to do in terms of theming for the show, or if I want to, come up with a name first. Then I put a dot point list of all the tricks that I might put in the show, and then I filter it down into the best stuff that I really want to put in that show. Sometimes I'll put things in the show and then they'll end up getting taken out later if I'm not really quite vibing it as much as I want. And then once I get to that point, then I get into the rehearsal stage. I start doing some full run-throughs and figuring out where I need things in what order. But the first thing that I'll usually figure out in terms of the routines or tricks that I do in the show is the finale, and work backwards. And then sort of fit everything in between. And I'd like to really put some variety in. So I'm not going to do like 3 card tricks in a row, 3 card routines. If I'm going to do multiple sort of similar routines, I'll sort of put them throughout the show in different spots. But yeah, once I've got all that sort of organized, then I rehearse and do the show. But I don't like rehearsing just by myself. I kind of much prefer to just go into it, and that's maybe the street performer in me. I like sort of letting things happen in the moment. So I don't really heavily script my shows. I do a lot of improvising in the moment on stage, and that's the drama kid in me. So yeah, everything comes together quite nicely on the shows and in the night.
I could just picture our producer Zig screaming at me right now because, like, that's exactly what you do. You never perform. You never, set anything in. You're always improvising. You got to stop doing that. Ziggs, if you're listening, I got another person who does it. So it is what it is. Because I think
Welcome
it's
to the club.
yeah. I think it works on some level, but you obviously can't do it on my level because I stuff up a lot. I have seen some of your videos that you posted, and I think fantastic. And I think you have the great balance. Me personally, no, I'm crap. So that's just me. But what is your favorite trick to perform, and has it always been that?
All right. I've had a lot of different favorite tricks, and frequently, like, I'll go, "Whoa, I really like doing this one. I feel like I'm working on something new." So at the moment, I'm in the test sort of run process of a trick that uses a key, and it's in my sort of close-up shows and close-up routines for people when I'm roving doing magic most frequently. And I really love that trick, and it's very unique. I think I'm going to post a video of it on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and stuff very soon. So keep an eye out for that, and you'll see the new thing that I've been working on.
Oh, wow.
So that currently is probably one of my favorite things to perform. Another one of my favorite tricks to perform is actually one that I created about 6 or 7 years ago, maybe something like that. And I actually got to release this one with a magic company called Vanishing Ink, which is probably, I think, probably the major magic company in the world. And I got to work with some incredible guys from their team who helped me get that trick that I created on the street into the public eye. And it was a take on a trick that's relatively old that someone created, and a lot of people ripped it off and created their own versions, and I created a very different version but using the same sort of concept. And we actually asked for his permission, and he said to us, "Oh, well, look, no one's ever actually asked me before to do a version of my trick, and there's been so many copycats, but you guys actually asked, so thank you, and yes, you can do it." And we released it, and it sold out at a bunch of different conventions and online, and so it was an incredible experience. And I'm so glad, because a lot of people get to perform it on TV. It's been performed on Netflix, on
Wow.
YouTube, and on millions of views on Instagram, on different platforms. People like Dynamo, Julius Dean, all those sorts of guys have done that trick, and it's incredible to see that something that I created has gone so far. But yeah, that's probably my favorite trick to perform, I think, and it still is my favorite trick to perform. But I've got a few little sort of tidbits that I add to it that make it a bit more unique that I didn't put in the DVD.
Fair enough. Well, we haven't got much time left in the interview, but I just want to lastly find out what's next for you.
Okay, all right. Well, this weekend I have a show that I'm doing for families on the school holidays, which is really exciting. So that's on the 25th, I believe. So the day after grand final day, on the Sunday. We'll be doing a family show in the city, but it's not like I'm going to make this ball disappear kind of stuff for kids. It's going to be more so. I know this sounds dorky, but cool magic for kids. So I'm not going to be up on stage making rainbow silks appear out of hats and birds fly everywhere. I'm going to be really trying to do almost the exact same show that I would do for adults, but for everyone to watch. So it's going to be heaps of fun. Another really great thing I'm going to be doing fairly regularly for the rest of the year, and I've been doing it for the last few months once again, which has been great, is working at a lot of the Holy Moly venues around Victoria. Because I'm not sure if you know this, but at Holy Moly on the weekends, if you go at the right time, there's usually magicians performing, roving around the venues there, which is really cool. So at Crown in the CBD and at Eastland and soon to be Chadstone as well, there will always be magician there on the weekends, and I'm one of the regular people who make my way around from CBD and Eastland, and used to do Crown all the time as well. But there's a lot of fantastic magicians who you can get to see close-up magic from whilst you're waiting to have a putt. So that's a great thing that I do on regular weekends. Another fantastic thing that I'll be working on is doing more shows of my show that was successful in August, I believe it was, That Magic Guy. That's going to be at the Speakeasy Theatre on Flinders Street in the city.
Nice.
So that up in November, so tickets will be going on sale very, very soon, and I can't wait to show people that performance and that show again, and do more of it for more people. I love that show so much. I think it's my favorite show that I've produced so far, so I really am excited to do more of it. Next year I'll be doing another show in the Melbourne Magic Festival that'll probably be a different show once again. So keep an eye out for that, and just keep an eye on my socials, because I will always tell people when I'm doing shows and when I'm doing street shows, because I hope to get back into doing that again regularly. And it should be heaps of fun leading into the end of the year, which is the busy season for entertainment, as you know.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Well, speaking of your socials, where can all our listeners and all your fans find you?
You can find me at LJ Magician on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and also TikTok, but not Twitter, because Twitter sucks, and I think we all know it's true. Twitter is just toxic as. I know people have it. I'm sorry. If you have Twitter, I'm sure you're lovely, but Twitter is just, I have no interest in going on there. But you can find me on just about everything else.
I'm a bit shocked on that one, because we do use Twitter.
Yep.
The only thing that I found very awkward from just what we were just saying is, you said it was corny to say it's a cool show. Like, you realize you're on a podcast called What If It's Cool, So I don't know how to feel about that one.
No. You can't do that. You can't do that. No, look, I say it's a cool magic show for families and kids, because a lot of magic shows for families and stuff like that, when it's not labeled as like an adult show, people think, it's going to be, some generic kids magician in a rainbow suit and stuff like that. Like that. Yeah, there's an excellent market for that kind of stuff, but that's for little kids. I'm trying to do this one for all the kids who are looking to see something like what they've seen online and stuff like that. That's kind of what I want to try and do.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, LJ, you
cool.
are incredibly cool. We definitely are going to say that here. Thank you for being part of our show. Good luck with the future, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and this show is just as cool.
Thank you.
And that's the end of that episode. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. If you want more from What If It's Cool, make sure to check out our YouTube channel, where you can find the latest episodes of Reaction, Mukbanging Around, and of course, the Vlogcast. And don't forget to follow us on all our socials. We can be found on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all at What If It's Cool. Keep that support coming. And until next time, we'll catch you on next one. Peace.